to the Graph Studio. Not connecting my wallet. Okay, so once I hit verify, I'm now pretty much into my dashboard. I've got my API keys over here, and I'll just go ahead and create my first API key and name it first API key, and enable product spending limit. I'll leave all this to the default and just hit create. All right, so I've got my API key over here. I'll just copy paste it somewhere. So next I will go back to my dashboard and I will start creating now my first subgraph. I'm also going to open a website. So this website has many benefits. I'm simply going to select a network. So let's say Ethereum. And let me see if I can select Gnosis, Ethereum. Okay, let's see if I can paste in that. I'll paste the address of my safe wallet. So no transactions found obviously on this wallet. Everything is empty at the moment. On Ethereum Sepolia. I'll just probably copy the address of my MetaMask and see if I have any transactions. This should show some transactions. So I'll copy this address, copy, and hopefully I should be able to see something. So no transactions found for this one as well. Let me check this on Etherscan. Okay, so I've got a couple of transactions I just did. So I just took 0.5 ETH. I started with 0 ETH and I took 0.5 ETH. I haven't done any spending. There should be something that this should reflect, but anyways, let's keep going. I'll just check it one more time. Yeah, I'm doing the right steps. Anyways, I'll keep going, and yeah, we'll see what we can do with Miniscan. For now, I've got a safe wallet set up. Taken some faucet, and I've got the site open, and I've got my transactions open. Back to my subgraph. So now we are going to create a subgraph. So I click here, doesn't matter. So I'll give this a name, my first subgraph. Actually my second, so, but yeah, my subgraph. Fahad subgraph 2. And I will hit, let me call it 1, and I will hit create subgraph. That's it. So the moment I do that, you can see that my subgraph is created. It does give me some instructions, how to install subgraph using npm, and I'll follow these instructions in a moment. Then it shows me some yarn commands in it, and then eventually deploy my subgraph, which is where it starts indexing and everything comes back on the hosted service, which is over here. So I'll leave all these blank for now, not mandatory. And I'll just go ahead and start configuring my subgraph. So first command is you can install Graph CLI with either npm or yarn. So I should have npm installed. Let me quickly check my npm, and that will be my node version. So node -- version. And my version is 18, so let's just quickly check install node.js, and let's just quickly check what's the latest version. So I don't think I'm too far. I mean, it's 2020 is the latest version, but let's see if there are no dramas with 18. So we'll stick to that. So I won't change that. So yeah, let's go ahead and install the Graph protocol, Graph CLI. So I'll go back over here and I'm going to create a new folder. So all right, so let's go into this folder, and here I'm going to simply type the command depending on the internet speed. Let's see how we go. Okay, so we've got some error. Let's quickly read. Okay, so it's got some permission access error, and most probably gets resolved with sudo. So I'm going to run the command again with sudo. It's not writing to my folders, so sudo npm install, add the password. Oops. Let's see if that works. Okay, giving me some npm warnings, some modules deprecated, but it's just a warning, nothing major, so I'll ignore it for now and I'll keep going unless it gives me some major error and there is some roadblock. Then I'll probably upgrade the node version. Yeah, a couple of warnings, probably because my version is old. I can see some more warnings coming up. Can be ignored, nothing serious. All right, so that's pretty much the completion of the first step. The next thing I'm going to do is, so I've installed the graph using npm. I'm not using yarn. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to init the graph. So graph init studio for subgraph1. So I'm going to run the next command, which is graph init -- studio, and I will enter the name. Might as well copy it, that's more accurate. So I prefer typing the commands so I can remember them. But yep, I will just copy the name and graph init -- studio subgraph1. So that initializes the subgraph in my local directory, and I will hit enter. Let's see, looks good so far. Essentially shows me the networks that are available. So let's pick up Ethereum. Because that's where we will be. So I will give my subgraph a name. All right, so this automatically it picks up from the hosted service that you can see behind, where I've set up a new subgraph. So I'll leave it as default. Directory to create the subgraph in. So that's automatically populated. So it will be the same directory. So you can see over here clearly that this is the directory where I've created my subgraph on the hosted service. So I'll leave that as default. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to use the CryptoPunk smart contract for our indexing. So that's on Ethereum mainnet. But you obviously have Sepolia, you have Gnosis, you have Gnosis mainnet, you have Gnosis Shadow. So yeah, you've got a couple of all Ethereum supported chains essentially. So let's take Ethereum mainnet. So I will click on mainnet. Now the next thing it's asking me is for the contract address. So for that, I will go back to my Explorer. And on Etherscan, I'm on the mainnet. So on the mainnet, I will search for CryptoPunks. Type in CryptoPunks. And that is the address of the contract. So I will copy this. It's also over here. So you can just copy it from here. So whichever you want to do. These are all the transactions that have happened in the CryptoPunk smart contract address. So if you just quickly go on their address, so this is the ETH value. This is the ETH balance that's in this address. Token holdings, who created and deployed this address. You can even go and look at the contract. So that's essentially the source code of the whole CryptoPunks contract address. And yeah, you can essentially fire up events directly from the smart. You can essentially see the events that are being logged. So a couple of events you can see. That's the name of the events, that's the arguments. This is the data that's going inside this event. So we are essentially going to be indexing these events happening in different blocks. We'll see what all this is, how the subgraph works on this in a moment. But yeah, so I will copy this BBB CryptoPunks address. And remember I told you that let's open this website, Miniscan. So this essentially helps us in many ways. So a lot of information that the subgraph wants us: the name of the contract, starting block, ABI code, Explorer. You can see all the events are also populated, and the block number, you can read it from here as well. So a lot of it just helps us with a lot of information that the CLI basically asks us. So it's like a mini scan contract explorer, just puts everything neatly. So I prefer using this. But yeah, let's go back now to our terminal. And here we are going to add the contract address that we are going to index and create the subgraph. So I will hit paste over here. All right, so we are going to enter the address and hit enter. Now it's fetching the ABI. Sometimes it does that. I will hit a retry. If it doesn't fetch the API, the ABI file, which is where all the functions definition for the smart contract are, then there's another way of doing it. Let's hit a retry. All right, so it's failed to fetch the ABI. So there's another way that we can, it happens sometimes. So the other way is that we try loading it from a local file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open VS Code. All right, so I'm simply going to create a new file, call it So I will call this file abi.json. All right, I will create it inside this folder. And where do I get the ABI from? So this is where this one comes in handy. So I will go back to the mini scan. I will pick up the ABI from here, copy it, come back over here, paste the ABI, and that's it. I'll hit save. And the next thing I'm going to do it, I'm just gonna pick up the name of this file. So I don't need two windows. Close. So where is my ABI file? So here is my ABI file. I am going to copy the part of it, and I will go back to my terminal and all right, so I'll hit no, and then I will paste this path for the ABI that I just created, and I will hit enter. So it should move forward. Amazing. So it's moved forward from there. All right, so the next thing it's asking me is the start block. So I'll go again over here, copy the start block, and I will put the start block over here. And I will hit enter. Now it's asking me for the contract name. So this is where this mini scan comes in handy. So I will put the contract name and index contract events as entities. So this is super useful. It will create entities of all the events. So I will keep it to true. All right, so it's essentially asking me to make sure I have a valid Git handle. And I haven't configured my Git handle here, so that's why it's picking up some default handle, which is this, and I need to essentially fix this. So the way to fix that is all right, let's do the process again. So we already installed it, so we'll just initialize it again. leave the defaults. Okay, let me cancel this and let's see what's inside this directory. Yeah, so let's delete this directory. Cool. So now this directory is removed. And let's run this process again. So I will start this again. And this time I'm going to do a bit different. So I'll just start it with sudo just to avoid any dramas. Okay, I will select Ethereum, leave the default, leave the default. So now it's creating all that stuff, and that should be mainnet. And again, back to the contract address. So I'll go to Miniscan, type the address, which is the address of CryptoPunks. So this address. So add the address, and it will fail. So I will now add the path to my ABI. So I will hit no. Okay, so I will pick up the address, right click, copy relative path. No, copy path, relative path will be the exact name. And I will put the path. Okay, start block. So I will copy the start block. Contract name. So I will copy the contract name. Index contract events as entities, true. Yay, so now we're finally moving ahead. Let's see how this one goes. Depending on the internet speed, this might take some time. All right, add another contract. So nope, I will stick to my current contract. And it's pretty much created the subgraph in my local directory. Run graph auth to authenticate with your deploy key. Type cd subgraph1 to enter the subgraph. Run yarn deploy to deploy the subgraph, right? So I already created an API key. So I'm going to now type graph auth. And I will see if that works well. So I will hit graph auth. So I'm going to copy my deploy key. And that's over here. So okay, I think I made a slight mistake. Let's see. Yep, okay, so it's moved on from there. It was asking me which product to initialize, and I'll just enter my deploy key. Hopefully that works. Let's try again. So I will follow the next steps. Cool. So just reading through the comments. So deploy key is all set for this graph. Now I will enter the subgraph. So I will go into CD subgraph, and from there I'm essentially going to build the subgraph using the code gen. So I will type this command. So EA access permission, I'll try and use sudo. Hopefully that works. Let's see. So there is some EA access permission on this folder. This is CryptoPunks Market. So inside the build folder. Okay, so I've run these commands separately. Seems to behave a bit better. No errors there. And now I'm essentially going to deploy my subgraph, and everything should come seamlessly over here. Let's see. All right, so now it's applying the migrations, and it should send the graph up. All right, so some permission issue on this folder. I need to update the permissions. All right, so finally we are there. Yeah, you could see that I had some permission issues that I was trying to fix. And yeah, you can essentially see that there is pretty much sync. It's already happened very quickly. Yeah, just refresh the page quickly. But nevertheless, yeah, your graph is deployed on the hosted node. This is all the detail of your graph being deployed. It's successfully deployed. You can see the logs. If there are any errors that happened during this process, or any activity that's essentially happening, everything gets logged here. These are your endpoints. More to that later if you need to query information from this. So I'll see if I can run this endpoint. What does that return? And yeah, so it essentially returns me a graph QL window where I can now essentially fire up my graph QL and get some data. So more to this later, but for now I'll just go back to my subgraph, and on the playground I'm going to start running my queries. So I can see the assigns event, the transfers event, the first 5. I can change this data and then simply play it and then see see basically my events coming up on my subgraph. There you go. So you've now pretty much created a subgraph, which is essentially the rules to an indexer. And this essentially starts to index your data. And you can then essentially publish from here and move on to the next steps. So you've successfully, congratulations, set up your first subgraph. And you've run the indexer, you've captured all the data, the events data from the CryptoPunk smart contract, and that's pretty much the end of your first lesson. So these are essentially all the events that you can see. I've got a couple of events: so sign event, transfer event, punk transfer, punk offered, punk bid entered. So these are essentially all the events, right? And if you see in our subgraph, right now we have just got these two events, so sign event and the transfer event, and we are picking up the first 5 of those events. You can obviously, let me just put it as first query, and you can essentially create more queries based on what events you want to grab. Yeah, thanks for watching.